ABC's your company, your crappy company, is one of the perpetrators. And I'll tell you something.
So why not just sign it now?
I think the license should be taken away from ABC because your news is so fake.
I don't know. The last time your FCC guy looked at that, didn't go so great for you. It really.
Woo! You tell him, Jim! Does it ever get old? And when I ask that question, obviously, I'm not asking normal people. I'm asking the friends and family of Jim Kimmel, or as Jim prefers to call them, his audience. I'm asking Cousin Kimmel. I'm asking Uncle Frank, who used to be named Fran. Does it ever get old? Does it ever get old listening to the same jokes? Does it ever get old watching a man repeat the same stale jokes that his wife has written for him? Does it ever get old watching a grown man who's married to a beautiful woman? Does it ever get old watching him ignore her because his primary focus is on the object of his desire, which is another dude? Does it ever get old watching Jim Kimmel suffer through these severe symptoms of stage 4 OMB? Orange Man bad! Which is clearly causing him to have an unhealthy obsession with Donald Trump. I have been covering this show for years. Every time, and I mean every time, we talk about Jim Kimmel, the jokes are always the same. The jokes are always about the Trumper. And I struggle to call them jokes because none of this shit's really funny. Hell, if it was funny, I would actually watch this late night dump. And in the beginning, I'm sure it was funny. In the beginning, I'm sure it was entertaining. But we are going on 10 years now of Jim Kimmel and his unhealthy obsession with the Trumper. At some point, it's got to get old. Clearly, that's not just my opinion. Looking at these late night ratings, millions of people seem to agree. You know, when you're struggling, when ratings are declining, there is this natural tendency to rely on things that have worked for you in the past. Uncle KC knows this from experience. 2025 has been a down year for Uncle KC here on YouTube. Now, the channel is still doing very well. I'm very fortunate. Can't tell you how much I appreciate all you guys who watch every video every day. But when compared to the last 3-4 years, views in 2025 are down 10, 12, 15%. It took me damn near the entire year to figure out a logical reason as to why. Going into 2026 and beyond, I think views are going to rebound. But while going through the process over the summer of figuring everything out, I was relying on topics that had worked well for me in the past. I caught myself becoming way too reliant on the WNBA dump, even though I was openly telling you guys all summer interest in the WNBA was declining. Well, Casey, that's not true. This past season in the WNBA was a huge success. Yeah, they couldn't sell out the WNBA finals with tickets selling for less than $40. But this past season in the WNBA was magical. Even with interest in the WNBA clearly declining, I caught myself relying on topics that had generated interest in the past. I'm sure you guys have noticed recently that I barely talk about pretend basketball anymore. We're almost through November. I think I've made 2, maybe 3 videos this month about the WNBA dump. And it's not because it's the off season. It's not because there's nothing to talk about. I quit talking so much about pretend basketball because the analytics were telling me that you guys were no longer interested. I think part of the reason Jim Kimmel and the other huge embarrassing failures in late night television, I think part of the reason they're obsessed with the Trumper is because The unhealthy obsession has worked well for them in the past. 10 years ago, and throughout his first term as president, late night hosts were doing well making fun of Donald Trump. But in the year of our Lord 2025, grown men being obsessed with the orange man, it doesn't have the same impact. Untreated stage 4 OMB, it's already gotten Stevie Colbert fired, and Uncle KC thinks Jim Kimmel could be next. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Link to the second channel in the description below. Earlier today on the second channel, talked about Shedeur Sanders' opportunity on Sunday to earn the starting quarterback position in Cleveland. I explain why this could be his only opportunity. And if Shedeur Sanders fails, he will be benched and likely released by the Browns in the offseason. Yesterday, we talked about the ongoing financial struggles in college football. Major programs are bleeding money. Smaller programs are on life support. I thought it was an interesting video. So if you haven't already, click the link in the description below, subscribe to the second channel. If you're watching me on TV, you can search Behind the Line Shorts. It should be the first channel that comes up. Last week, Jim Kimmel's rating struggles continued. First half of 2025, Jim was averaging 1.8 million viewers. When he was temporarily fired in September and made his immaculate return later that month, Jim was averaging almost 5 million viewers. Wowzer! I'm an overnight success! This is great! Last week, Jim Kimmel returned to his typical averages. 1.8 million viewers, 223,000 in the 18 to 49 demo. This can only be described as huge embarrassing failure. Matter of fact, with the huge embarrassing failure awards coming up next month, I will start accepting your nominations here in the next week or so. With the HEF awards coming up next month, I expect you guys to nominate Jim Kimmel as one of the nominees to win the most prestigious award in all of entertainment. Going into October, Jim Kimmel had the eyes of America on him. For a very, very brief period, he was the #1 show in late night TV. He had the attention of 4.8 million people. Christmas came early. It came especially early for Jim Kimmel, who doesn't celebrate Christmas in December. As you guys know, Jim celebrates Woke Christmas in June. He is the honorary captain of the Wiener Float in the Gay Pride Parade in Hollywood. But anyway, Jim was given a gift from the Trumper. The eyes of the mainstream were on him. All Jim had to do was maintain it. The only thing Jim Kimmel had to do was his job, which is entertain the audience. No one expected Jim Kimmel to hold on to 4.8 million people, but 3 million? 2.5 million? 2 million? Hell, this embarrassing failure couldn't hold on to 1.81 million. Of all the free viewers that were gifted to Jim Kimmel from the Trumper, he failed to hang on to a single one. For some reason, Don Trump is trying to elevate this polished turd again. I guess Don's in the Christmas spirit, even though we're still a week away from Thanksgiving. I guess Don Trump is feeling generous because once again, Donald Trump is giving Jim Kimmel free publicity and national attention that he does not deserve. Headline at Mediaite: Trump demands that Jim Kimmel be yanked off the air after late night host mocks him. I don't like this for a couple of reasons, actually. Number one, I think it's beneath the presidency to constantly worry about Captain Doofus. If Don is looking for a problem to solve, there are plenty of problems in Dearborn, Michigan. I'm pretty sure there's a housing crisis across the country. We have an entire generation susceptible to the myth of socialism and communism because they can't afford the American dream. If Don's in the mood to fire someone, he should focus on the health insurance industry. Health insurance is a complete ripoff. If we didn't need insurance for our daughter, health insurance for our daughter, I wouldn't even have it. Why in the hell would I pay $1,200 a month for an insurance plan with a $10,000 deductible? If my deductible is $10,000, what do I need insurance for? By the time I pay the monthly premiums and the deductible, I've paid what, $24,000? I could put 24 grand in the market, and within 10 years, I could use the interest or use some of the money I invested to pay for whatever health problem that comes up. In my experience, it's a lot easier to visit doctors, maybe even hospitals, without insurance anyway, because there's no red tape, there's no bureaucracy. The entire transaction is between you and your doctor. The transaction is a lot easier when the doofus insurance company isn't involved fucking everything up. Anyway, the point is, there are plenty of other problems that Donald Trump could be focusing on. It's beneath the presidency for Donald Trump to be constantly complaining about Jim Kimmel, mainly because this situation has pretty much already been resolved, which means there's nothing to complain about. May of 2026, Jim Kimmel's contract with ABC expires. Supposedly, they are currently in negotiations, but unless Jim Kimmel is willing to take a massive pay cut, I don't see how he continues collecting woke welfare from ABC. And even if he takes a pay cut, probably not going to be enough to save the show. Late night television is expensive to produce. If I remember correctly, I want to say it cost around $100 million a year to produce these late night turds. Stevie Colbert is the #1 host in late night on the broadcast networks. Greg Gutfeld is the king of late night, but amongst the big 3 broadcast networks, Stevie Colbert is queen. He averages over 2 million viewers. He's losing $40 million a year. Now you got to remember, Disney, which owns ABC, Disney is already struggling financially. In terms of valuation, Disney has lost 46% of its value in the last 4 years. Are they really interested in spending $100 million on a show that has proven to be a constant nuisance and a money loser? Don Trump doesn't have to demand for Jim Kimmel to be fired because Jim Kimmel is going to be fired either way. Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys tomorrow.